Hi, I'm Betsy Sweet, your host for Maine Challenge. I am so excited to share with you a celebration of our first year. Want to know what we've been up to? Take a look. It's amazing what can happen when a small group of people decide to challenge Maine to be the best it can be and want to provide the information that will help. In a little over a year and during a pandemic, Maine Challenge has produced more than 52 programs delving into issues and policies that affect Maine people. You have watched us on Public Access TV, on Facebook, and on our Maine Challenge YouTube channel. Over the past year, we partnered with many Maine people and organizations, lifting up their voices and sharing their ideas on how to make Maine live up to its motto, Maine, the way life should be. All over the state, there are amazing people doing amazing things, and we want you to know about them. Maine Challenge was started by a small group of people from Lincoln County Indivisible who had a big idea. Chuck Kruger, musician, stepped up to be the first host to interview candidates, including me, and Jeff Friedman, a former PBS producer, stepped in and said, "I can help you make this into a TV show." Eventually, a group of 4 individuals had a hunch that it should become a separate nonprofit organization and its own show. So first, I want you to meet those 4 people. Here is our board chair, inventor, author, and marine systems guru, Nigel Calder.
Maine Challenge at 52. Congratulations.
And a guy who cares about the environment and who you can usually find on his kayak, longtime influential environmental activist Mike Hertz is treasurer and vice chair. Progressive activist and businesswoman and former golf pro, Pam Cunningham, got us out on social media. And the 4th original member of this hardworking board is Kate Josephs, a former venture capitalist and community development lender, as well as a local activist and a recent Emerge graduate. And I transitioned from interviewee to interviewer, and we moved from candidates to issues. Right from the start, we have had hotshot guests and thought-provoking discussions. For example, here is a clip of the phenom historian Dr. Heather Cox Richardson talking about Trump and his allies sowing doubt about the results of the election before the insurrection took place.
One of the things that is fascinating for a historian about the Trump administration, but it's not unique to him, it's been a project on the GOP side for a while now, is to create reality. If you say it enough, it becomes true. And that's, the scholars of language and rhetoric and politics all know about how one does that. The more you repeat it, the more people think, oh yeah, it's true.
Right after the insurrection at the Capitol, I had a fascinating conversation with Rob Ryers of Brand New Congress and Dr. Michael Owens, a congressional candidate from Georgia, talking about his reaction to the assault on the Capitol.
But what this did for me was it is the icing on the cake when it comes to what's been the worst presidential administration in the history of this country, right? And it also has gone to me thinking about it and watching this kind of unfold. I was actually having lunch with some volunteers, really hard, dedicated people, and they're looking at the TV over my shoulder, and I'm not seeing real time what's happening. They are, and they're just like, Michael, that's good stuff you're talking about, but you need to stop and turn around. Like they're literally broken into the Capitol. So I guess my point is that President Trump's actions over these last 4 years has normalized this type of activity to where when we reach full insurrection, literally breaking into the people's house, it's almost treated as another novelty, and again, I'm like, Rob, I haven't fully processed this yet, but my first inclination to view this is this has been normalized way too much, right? This is a national travesty. This is all. I saw pictures yesterday of people wearing shirts that said Civil War. I mean, the call was clear. The actions were clear. So for us to see it as anything less, to see it as supporters that were upset or misguided, no, these were people who literally, actively took an approach to take over this government.
And then I brought the conversation home by speaking with Andy O'Brien and Crash Berry about the prevalence of hard-right groups right here at home. Andy gave a great explanation of the long history of such groups in Maine.
Well, I think you need to really go back to the colonization of this country to understand where far-right movements come from. Maine was the land of indigenous people for thousands of years. English arrived and nearly wiped them out and took their land. Wealthy English merchants brought Africans to this colony, and at least 500 African enslaved people were here during the colonial era, and there were slave markets in southern Maine. And after the Civil War, we saw this backlash towards people of color in Maine. The first strike in Portland was Black workers working on Portland City Hall, and they were demanding better wages. And all the press was against them and basically saying that they were getting paid more than white people and that there was a no white supply policy and that kind of thing. And so there was a lot of that, but there weren't a lot of African American people in Maine, but there were a lot of French Catholic immigrants who came to Maine in the 19th century. So then you saw the birth of the Know Nothing Party in reaction to waves of Irish and French Catholic immigrants. And so every time there has been a challenge to the white Christian patriarchal social order, there's been a huge conservative backlash. And so the Know Nothings, burned a church in Bath where Catholics were meeting. They tarred and feathered John Bass, who was a Jesuit priest up in Ellsworth. There were conspiracy theories about Catholics running sex dungeons in Lewiston, kind of like the similar stuff that they would say about Muslims today, where they were terrified that, if Catholics gained enough political power that they'd have the Pope from Rome running the whole country. And so that's where that came from. And then, of course, in the 1920s, you saw the birth of the Ku Klux Klan. Tens of thousands of Mainers joined the Klan and elected a rabid right-wing governor, Ralph Owen Brewster, who was actually one of McCarthy's right-hand men in the 50s. And then you saw fascist movements in Portland in the 30s with the Silver Legion, and I sort of tie the modern far-right movement to George Lincoln Rockwell, who was actually spent a huge chunk of his life in Maine. His father lived on Westport Island. My father actually knew them back in the 60s. But he was a founder of the American Nazi Party, and he had a small following in the 60s. But, the media made a big deal of it, and he'd always get he'd go to college campuses, go around the country, get all kinds of attention. And two of his lieutenants, one was William Pierce, and the other one was James Mason, were incredibly influential in the modern neo-Nazi white supremacist movement. William Pierce wrote a book called The Turner Diaries, which was about a violent revolution to overthrow the federal government, leading ultimately to a race war and extermination of Jews and non-whites. And that book inspired the Oklahoma City bombing. And James Mason wrote a book called Siege, which advocates what is known as accelerationism, which is the same idea where you essentially provoke a race war through acts of terrorism.
One of the goals of the Maine Challenge is to help us learn more about issues that face us and how to talk about them, even with people who disagree with us. And then how do we turn that talk into policy? I was thrilled to talk with rising star Senator Chloe Maxman, who does all three.
Yeah, lots of anger out there this year. It was shocking. In 2018, I felt like things were kind of divisive and angry, but this year was a whole new level. And it was freaky because I felt like the community that raised me, which I think of as a very kind, caring community, did not feel super kind and caring this year, but for understandable reasons, because politics has so failed everyone, and I think everyone has a right to be angry at it. But I mean, yeah, different levels of anger, definitely the folks who shut the door in your face and tell you to get off their property, and there's really not much that you can do there except say that's not very kind and walk away. But a lot of times what I try and do is just like stay pretty calm and just say, do you have any space to talk about this with me? Or, you don't know me yet. I know you see me as someone who represents the system that has failed you, but I'm genuinely here to try and make it better. And I want to hear what you have to say, whether or not you vote for me. And a lot of times kind of trying to break it down and be a little bit more honest really helps. I remember this one time when I drove down someone's really long dirt driveway, and they came at me hard, and I was like, whoa, I'm not here to be angry at you. I'm here to listen to you. And he was like, I'm so sorry. And he ended up apologizing and was like, I'm really sorry. You know, I hate the campaign season. I hate all these people coming down my driveway. I just feel like they're using me, and I shouldn't have come at you like that. So I think sometimes it can like break it down a little bit. But
Criminal justice reform is a civil rights issue of our time, especially the incarceration of young people, especially those who are brown, black, and poor. My conversation with Joseph Jackson and Bruce King from Maine Inside Out was quite moving, and their work has changed the conversation and gotten the closing of Long Creek Youth Prison further along in the legislature than it has ever gotten before.
Big mistake that we've made and why our system is broken is that we take all of these young kids that we define as bad, and we put them in a big room together, big building all together. And what you do when you do that is you reinforce the belief and the perception of the kid, not only that they're bad, but that their perception of the world is right. That, and all of these other young people around them have these other similar experiences that continues to perpetuate what you see and what you begin to understand versus, putting them in different places, right? Because you can't know what you don't know. And so I think that has been a failure for a long time, and that we're finally getting to a place I feel like Maine is starting to reckon with that.
11 people a day in Maine are dying from drug overdoses, and all the strategies we have used for so long are not working. I talked with Representative Charlotte Warren and Courtney Allen, who is the policy director of Maine Recovery Advocacy Project, to find out their ideas for a better way. I learned a lot, and I think all of you did too.
One of the things that I try to remind my committee members every day, and I try to say 5 times a day, is 11 people a week are dying right now from something that's preventable, and it's overdoses. So that's where we are. We also are in a place where we are still, although we say that we don't want to arrest our way out of this problem, we continue to try to arrest our way out of this problem. We have some of the most arcane drug laws in the country, and we have one of the highest overdose rates in the country. Although we have an administration that has prided itself on, talking a lot about trying to give people hope, when you are still giving people shame and stigma, it's hard for that hope to make it, right? When you are providing treatment to some folks, but still criminalizing and stigmatizing people's medical condition, you're kind of working against yourself. So we still spend a lot of money on law enforcement officers and on locking people up, and not enough money on treatment and resources to reduce stigma and actually give not only the people that are suffering from substance use disorder, but their children and their parents and their neighbors and their communities hope and belief that we can solve this epidemic if we start to actually do what the data and the research and the evidence says works. Yeah. And that's not what we're doing right now.
It's really exciting for me to talk with people whom I really admire. I think a lot of Ben & Jerry for a lot of reasons, including their great ice cream. But my discussion with them about why we should end qualified immunity for police demonstrated how both passionate and practical they are about fixing things in our society that they feel are broken. And our conversation led to them testifying before the Maine State Legislature.
These are people that we hire and authorize to use lethal force in our name in order to protect and serve. And they are literally killing Black people in front of our very eyes. And we're letting them get away with it.
We've had a couple of shows talking with the people who inspire me most, young people. Whether talking about climate change, age and hate crimes, or creating new ways to have their voices heard at the table, they always amaze and inspire me. Here's a clip of someone who really amazes me and happens to be my own daughter, Betsy Sweet, talking about some structural changes to include young people in policymaking.
Well, I think the first is to have a permanent structure within state government that is only duty is to improve the lives of young people so that they're not just put at the back of the list, and that they are constantly being checked in on and also recognized and represented in any way that the state can support them, and not just economically, but socially as well. And being able to provide that type of support and that type of ear and listening ear is so important for young people to even start becoming involved in politics. And yeah, that's really one of the main reasons, but it's also to provide a direct and coordinated access point for advocates and organizations as well that is trying to improve the situation for young people and really amplify those voices that and those projects that are already working on these really important issues.
Over the course of 52 shows, we've had the chance to hear from candidates, people who work on environmental issues, on the economy and tax policy, on water rights, on the need for women to run for local office, gun safety, attacks on Asians and Asian Americans, just to name a few. Every single one of them has had amazing things to say. They told us stories about why they are passionate about their issue, and they gave ideas about ways that you could make a difference by standing up, speaking out, and getting involved. They asked you to add your voice to theirs. As you can see, we don't shy away from hard issues, and we have a lot of opportunity to make Maine live up to its motto, the way life should be. And we have plenty of material and a lot of good shows in store. But I am just the pretty face. There are people behind the scenes who actually make this show work. Brian Leonard, our director and videographer, puts this show together. His passion for capturing the stories of Maine's progressive activists shines through every program we do. When we get to the end of social distancing, Brian can't wait until we get into the studio at the Portland Media Center and out across the state, filming our shows in person. Maybe even some shows with a live audience.
Well, I'd just like to thank the Maine Challenge folks behind me. What a great opportunity. We're all working together. It's such a great show, great energy, good people, and I'm really happy to be here for the celebration of the 1 year, even though I've only been here for 2 months. But these are great folks, and we are doing some good TV, and can't wait to see how high it goes.
Barb Burt, our executive producer, came to Maine Challenge with nonprofit management experience, as well as years of activism on the local and state level, as well as nationally. Here's Barb talking about her vision for Maine Challenge.
We live in a divisive time. The voices of reasonable, caring people tend to get drowned out to the detriment of a shared sense of community. Every person you see on a Maine Challenge program, no matter their political affiliation, cares deeply about our beautiful state and all of us who live here. I hope as Maine Challenge grows and matures, we become better and better at getting out the message that, yes, Maine has challenges, but there is a cadre of people from all walks of life committed to surmounting those challenges, and you can join them in that effort. I hope you'll become a Maine Challenge subscriber.
To put this show together takes amazing volunteers, great guests, and money. We have been blessed with seed money from philanthropist and social visionary Bill Creighton, and he has a challenge for you too.
I think Maine Challenge is important because the voices of normal people in Maine often don't get heard in the shuffle, and most media just doesn't address the issues that real people are experiencing. So I think Maine Challenge is an exciting opportunity for people to have their words brought into the conversation. And so I am making a challenge to those of you who are watching now, and I suggest that you invite others to come and join you in watching. And my challenge is that I will match all donations received between during the months of June, July, and August. And I will match 100% of your donation up to a total of $30,000. And if you believe that Maine Challenge and the concept of inviting other people into the conversation is a worthwhile thing, I implore you to join me.
That is awesome, Bill. I hope we get lots of donations for people who share your vision and our vision and want to challenge Maine to be the best it can be. Remember, to have your donation matched, your donation has to be made this summer. As you can see, we at Maine Challenge take our work very seriously, even though we have a lot of fun doing it. Our more than 52 programs have been viewed by thousands of Maine people and have already had an impact on policymaking at the state level. But we need your help in reaching even more people. Here are 4 things you can do to help us get the word out. First, like us and follow us on Facebook and share our stuff on your social media platforms. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Maine Challenge. You can even watch us on your big smart TV. Just go to YouTube and search for Maine Challenge Productions. Visit our website, mainechallenge.org, where you can connect with us. We'd love to interact with you, hear your ideas and comments on our shows, and what issues you'd like to see us cover next. And lastly, tell all your friends about Maine Challenge and encourage them to watch. So happy birthday to us, and thanks for watching.
Happy birthday, Maine Challenge. Happy birthday to us.
Oh, it looks beautiful.